start or yeah. So hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today we have Rosa Salcido with us. She's architect AIBC, also certified professional and LEED app. So she's practicing architecture in Vancouver area since 1995. She's the principal of Baby Green Architecture, and since 2011, providing architectural services for commercial multi-residential projects and incorporating sustainable strategies for energy efficiency and healthy indoor environment. So she has a lot of interesting project and that she's going to share with us today, and also the path of her career from Mexico to Canada, and that would be very interesting, I think. So yeah, Rosa, thank you for joining us.
Thank you all. Okay, so let me just share my screen. 1 second, sorry. So yes, thank you for the invitation and to share the experience. And when I was trying to prepare for what constitute experience in architecture, I came across these boards that show all the elements that go into experience. So two major things I believe are practicing, even if you don't know what you're gonna do, but you learn it as you go. And the second, continue education and professional development is always a requirement. So as Sefide mentioned, I graduated from University of Baja California, and I came to Canada and became a registered architect in 2010. But before that, I was working for multiple different offices in the Lower Mainland. And from 2011, 2012, I opened my own and continue upgrading my skills through education for LEED, for different courses at BCIT, and more recent grinding path to become a certified professional on building code is different type of studies for understanding the code, because they said the code, you just have to follow the book and you have to do word by word what the book says. He said you cannot be creative, you cannot try to implement your own, you have to follow the book. So it took me a while to get it, but this year I became a certified professional. One of the things that I have seen around, and I think it happened to a lot of people, is that we change careers and we don't stay on the same position throughout our lives. And even within one career, we can have different approach to the work. Perhaps sometimes we do administration work, perhaps sometimes we do drafting work, perhaps sometimes we do management work. But in my case, I started as a secretary, accountant, and then I went to teach. So I was teaching for a few years, and then I became a full architect in Mexico and working with different companies. A lot of variety on the work. But in all of these events, I was always studying and working, because I feel that whatever knowledge you have is not complete if you are not adjusted to the local requirements and local laws, so you need to learn those. Look at that old computer. That was from 2005, I think. Now we have evolved quite a bit. And some of the projects I work, that one is the YVR airport. We did renovations there. So it's quite a path to get to where we are now. My first job in Mexico was to renovate my hometown city hall. And it wasn't much. It was existing building that just wanted to remove some balconies and add more area to it. So, but up to date, like 20, 25 years later, the renovation I did is still in place. So my whole family lives in this town. They drive by this building and I'm just like, oh, they think it's like, oh, the architect that renovated this is my sister. And so that kind of give us pride and good memories even when I go visit. Also, I work on the border with US. That was the city where I studied. So we created some walkways for people crossing the border because it's so hot in there. They have to be waiting in the sun for a long time. So we created this pathway that will help them to stay in the shade for a while. And so it was a visible project. A lot of people could see this type of project. And the bottom picture is that town city hall where I also did some work. And then I came to Canada. So when I come to Canada is adapting and fitting in, but it's a big change and a big adjustment in the sense of I finished university in Mexico. I have been already teaching and I have been an accountant, and you come here and you have to start from scratch and you have to start from zero. So the first thing, and as I mentioned already, was to study and study building code, study the software that we are going to use, and also understanding the municipalities' regulations, bylaws, and requirements for building permits was one of the main things that I have to do, and I still continue doing. And my family say, when are you going to stop studying? I said, maybe never. I always continue studying, and I always continue taking classes. And not only they give you exposure, but they give you understanding of the work you're doing, and also something to be able to discuss with the peers. So having all that information is applicable for when we are trying to find a job. We can have all kinds of studies and all kinds of education, master, doctorate. But when we come to Canada, we have to make sure that we plant our feet on the ground and we said, where do I start? And one of the things that I found very helpful was that the government of Canada has a lot of resources available for people looking for jobs, and they are free. If you are not employed, they will help you to write resume. They will help you to create practice interviews. They will help you to give you tips how to get a job. So sending a resume is like sending these little paper planes in the air. It doesn't do anything. I volunteer for a firm when I first came to Canada, and the job they gave me, I didn't even know the practice. The job they gave me was to sort through a stack of resumes, divide them by education, divide them by experience. It's a pile. You send your resume, it's gonna be in the pile. And nowadays they don't even print them. It's a folder in the computer. So sending the resume doesn't do anything. The thing you have to do is to first figure out who are you sending the resume. And again, there are a lot of resources in the library and the work centers to find out who are the addressee. Who are you supposed to send this resume to? There is a lot of resumes that come to me with spelling errors. So that shocks the submission right away. The spelling errors, just put it to the side, you don't need them. And keep it short. Do not try to explain I was a wonder in my country. I was the best architect. It doesn't do anything. Just keep it short and clear what you are able to do and how they can use your skills. Show your contact info. I have, throughout the time I have been working on my own, I have resort to looking into where people live, because they are gonna have to come to work, and commuting very long distances are not ideal because people get tired of the commute and they will quit. So showing the contact info is not a bad thing. Some people try to hide the address for some reason. So for me, it's important to know where people live. Are you in Port Moody and you have to come to Richmond? It's a long way. So, and clearly describe the experience, even if you don't have experience in Canada, but to say I worked in this company 6 years or 4 years. And then the other thing is to follow up on the submission. Don't just send the resume and 2 months later say they never called me back. You have to follow up. And employers understand that when somebody is calling, you don't have to call every day, of course, but let's say every 7 days, you're gonna give them a call. Have you reviewed the resumes? Is there anything I can add? Should I send you some more information? When do you expect to have an answer? If employers, especially a smaller firm, see that you have the interest, they are gonna dig your resume and they're gonna say, okay, let me look. They have insisted quite a bit. Let me see if they will be a fit for our firm. So the other option to upgrade our skills in the local architecture is to look at events and magazines that are related to our profession. And this is, again, something that gives you a conversation piece to talk to somebody local, and at the same time understanding who are the players in the field you are developing. Going to Buildex, a lot of people go there, a lot of architects, a lot of construction companies, and you never know, you may get a job with them or you may get a sponsor. For example, one time I went to Buildex and I found they had a company called Embers, and they give training how to get a job and a lot of good courses that are all paid by government, and I wouldn't have known about them unless I went to these events. Now, when we are applying for a job, we can be selective ourselves. It's not sending 100 resumes and say, I'm going to apply to all of them, see who calls. You can do that, but you are throwing a plane in the air, a paper plane in the air. But if you said, I have experience on hospitals, or I have experience on only residential, and then you go through the AIBC directory and select which companies you like to work for. And then you say, I'm gonna send 10 resumes or 15 resumes, and I'm gonna keep at it. I'm gonna send a resume to Derek Neal. This is the principal of this firm. And I'm gonna call back if you phone a firm and you know the name of the person that is the decision maker, very often you can get through by just talking to the receptionist and say, can I please talk to Derek Neal? Is Derek Neal available? I'm just using one architect's name that I remember now, but it could be Don Casian or it can be whoever. And if you know the name, very often you can get through. Now, we all have colleagues that are working, so we can find out those names easily, or we can search on the institute. All the names of the partners of the firms are there. There are many different branches that architecture can be applied. So there are many fields of work, perhaps working with the construction company, perhaps working with BC Housing, perhaps working with Save on Food or Boston Pizza. They do their internal designs. Or maybe you are in an architectural firm, or you are working for government. You could be working for a municipality. Sorry. So there are many options where an architect can have a career. So we have to be open. It's not just I want to go and be designing or drafting. Maybe I'm going to be attending to public and reviewing projects that are coming to city. So there are many options. Now I have here the issue of the expectative that people may say, I have so many years experience, I have so many degrees, I want to make this much money. When we first come to Canada, we have to switch our expectative and say, I have to start from the bottom and I have to demonstrate that I can do the work. Once we demonstrate, you can move very fast on the ladder. But to start, you have to have a humble attitude. And by humble, I'm not saying just stay quiet and be head down. By humble is accepting what the other person is asking you to do, but at the same time be outgoing, take initiative, and show interest. For example, I used to work on a firm that were 80% male and very few female. And I was always very interested to go to site. And I told somebody, one of my colleagues, do you want to go with me to site? There is a construction on that site or this site. And he said, sorry, I don't want to dirty my shoes. Well, you don't learn if you are not on the field. So being curious and showing interest is a big plus. And also learning from colleagues and learning from online resources. Nowadays, everything is on the internet. You want to find a type of window, you want to find some hardware, you want to find certain type of wood or a ULC number. Everything is online, so don't be afraid. And also, don't be afraid of the phone. Many times in the last 10 years, I have told my staff, call this consultant or call the city. And 2 days later, I asked, did you call? I send an email. I didn't ask you to send an email. I asked you to call, because if you can get through, you get the answer right away. If you can get through, you talk to this person, then you establish a communication. And on the other side of the telephone is a person like you. It's not a god, it's not a queen, it's a person, right? So don't be afraid of the phone, and don't be afraid to communicate and take initiative and show your skills, but not by being a snob. just by being humble and say, I can help you with this, I can do this work. And so there are 3,000 architects in British Columbia. The last time I remember talking about the number of architects at the AIBC, I thought it was about 1,800 registered architects. So there may be many of them in these 3,000 that are not registered, but many of them are practicing. So you never know, you're gonna be working on interiors, or you are gonna be working with somebody doing only hospitals, or somebody doing only entertainment centers. So there are many opportunities. We just have to be outgoing, and we cannot send our resumes to infinity and beyond. We have to be on top of it, and we have to keep at it. So once I started working in Canada, I was given the opportunity to work on the Helijet terminal and Planet Ice ice rink. And I feel very proud of seeing these buildings every time I drive by, and I recognize the drawings I did in a physical building. So I think it's like we all take ownership of the building, even though it's not our building. But even if we just draw the window, we just draw the elevator, or we just draw the canopy, we put our portion of design or portion of the work in the buildings, and they become our baby, and they are forever ours. So I drive by the Helijet terminal very often, and they have painted the building, but the shape is still the same, and I say, my building. These are other buildings I worked on, and again, some of them very visible. The Canadian Tire on Cambian 7, I worked on it for 3 years, and I was able to do all the windows and the tower where the signage is, and the connection between different facades, detailing, and the parquet. And so I learned the building from scratch, from very bottom all the way to top. And it was a very good experience to be on site and to see the construction going, and to come to the realization that whatever you put on the paper now becomes a reality, becomes a building. The Cuatro Development was another project that was very satisfactory, 3-4 years of work. 4 buildings, we did the development permit, we did the building permit, and we did the construction. So it was a project through Patrick Cotter office, but to see it come to life, and then people started living on these buildings, it gives a lot of satisfaction. So in 2011, I started the company with 2 partners, and we thought it was like a friendship kind of gathering every day, because we are gonna do the work together. But partnership and starting a business is not an easy thing. When you start a business, you don't make any money. It takes a while for your company to be known, and you're doing work and work and work and work, and you get barely enough money to pay your bills. And in my case, I was working from home that time, so I could continue working, but my partners, they couldn't continue without having an income, so they went back to work for other firms. So I stayed by myself with the firm, and I started hiring staff. The picture below is a recent picture of the staff at the office, and the office behind. So we have grown, and we have a lot more contacts now that bring projects to the firm, but it's not a next day thing. So far, it's 10 years since I started, and Now I can see that a lot of projects come our way by different means, but to start the business, to own the business, there are many things that we don't see in architecture that you have to do if you are on your own boss. I never look at the administrative part of the architecture before I started my business. I will perhaps help the accountant of the firm to tell them what work I was doing and what was additional work. That was as far as I went in administration. I just passed that information so they can do the billing. But now I have to do all of that. And by acquiring equipment and software and thinking about staff salaries and benefits and running the business itself, there are lots of stressors, and also there is a lot of time limitation for your work. When you are running the business, you concentrate fully on running the business. There is no time for architecture. Or you can concentrate on architecture, but who's going to run the business? So at the end of the day, they always say that you end up wearing 3 different hats. One is who's running the business, who's getting the clients, and who's doing the work. So it was ideal. I thought that we are 3 partners, so one of each will do one section of the work. But if it's only one person, then it becomes very complicated. But if it's 3 persons, you all have to agree as well. So sometimes you don't agree. Let's spend on buying a copier. No, we don't have money to buy a copier right now. Let's spend it on buying the software so we have the license. No, we cannot buy the license right now. We need to hire somebody to do the work. So a lot of conversation come and go into how you're gonna run the business. So partnership is good because you get a support and somebody is doing a portion of the work while you do another, but at the same time, it has to have a very good agreement and be committed enough that for 1-2 years, you're not gonna make money for real. You're not gonna make money. You barely will be able to pay your bills, your internet, your phone, and so it's a commitment unless you're super well connected and you get large jobs from the start. So the benefits of being on your own will be independence and to put your own touch to the designs, because when you go to a large firm, the partners or the designers are the ones deciding what the building will look like. So we end up, or I did for 15 years, just doing what others tell me, right? I was just production. Draft this, draft that, change this, change that. So that's drafting. And we always say, oh, I'm creative. I have a degree. I want to put my own input in it. It's very difficult to do when you're working for others, but it's easy to do when you're working by yourself. And making a difference and helping others is perhaps my driver all the time. I have helped a lot of people that are perhaps newcomer or people that don't have experience in Canada by training them, by giving them tools. And I said, I just want them to stay long enough with me so that the time I put into them also helps me. But whenever you are done working with Vivid Green and you want to go to another firm, you're going to be as good as anybody else, and you're going to be able to demonstrate this to the new employer. So that's somehow my driver, and you cannot avoid worry about things. And it's difficult to disconnect. When you go home, you keep on thinking, what am I gonna do? Oh, this is not gonna work. Oh, the column is missing, the building is gonna fall. I have to fix it tomorrow. I forgot to send this email. And the payroll is coming in 2 days and I haven't got paid from clients. So there are many worries, but at the same time, you have to keep clear in your mind what is driving you to do the work. I perhaps like social quite a bit, so I have a great feedback in having employees, talking to them. So for them being working from home wasn't doing much for me. I prefer them to be working at the office. Besides, the interaction helps the projects to run as smooth, helps the projects to keep moving. So there are satisfactions, you have independence, but at the same time, you have a lot of worries when you own your own business. One of the most difficult things is to get people to give you jobs. I started by a huge project that was to add an elevator to existing house. The whole thing was just a square of 6 by 6. That's the whole project. And we did the site plan and the whole floor plan and the submission to city, and we made $1,200. We spent like 2 weeks maybe, and we made $1,200. 3 people, then you have to divide that amount after you pay the bills. So we were happy we got a first project, but you have to start with very small projects. So the best way is to talk to people that you have already on your existing network. I know 6 people, those 6 people know 6 people each, and those 6 people know. So somebody needs a renovation, it trickles down to you. And they will come to you to get a quote for doing this work. So word of mouth is very important. And referrals, I have got a lot of referrals from building envelope consultant that works with me all the time. Somebody looking for architect, that building envelope, send them my way. And I do the same for them, right? Structural engineers or mechanical engineers, I always need them to be involved. So I ask from quotes for them, and the client end up being the one who select them. But helping each other through network is really good. One of the things that I did when I started the business was to join the Chamber of Commerce. And once a week, perhaps they had an event, and I will dress up to go to the event. And only then I felt like, oh yes, I am in business because I'm dressing up. It's not like I can work at home on my pajamas. I now need to dress up and show up in front of other business people. So that networking and referrals has been very important for me. Now, once you start doing the actual project, collaboration with other consultants is always good. This tower is the only tower I have done with Vivid Green. It was not my own design. It was another architect design, but she couldn't do the working drawing part. So she asked us if we can help her do the working drawing and the construction admin. It's a big project. It's for 64 units. Big project for a startup company. But I was really excited about being involved and really excited about going to site and really excited to see it built. And one of the things that I got a very good feedback when we went for final before occupancy. Everybody from the city, fire department comes to the site, and you're there representing the architect. And that was very, a lot of satisfaction. And like I said, you start with a small project. We did 3 townhouses and then a lot of commercial work. Originally, I thought that I'm gonna be just doing residential work, but most of the projects that came my way in the beginning were commercial renovations. And it was based on my past experience because I have done a lot of commercial work while working with other firms. And so every experience that you acquire while working helps you further down the road. This one is internal renovations, but you put your design as well, either the trellis or the floor selection or the colors of the wall. So all of these elements become design elements. This was perhaps one of the largest projects we did in the beginning. And this one, we had the satisfaction of organizing a kickoff meeting with a full set of consultants. And we tried to do it sustainable way. So we were monitoring the mechanical system, the electrical system, and collaborating in full with all the consultants. So it turned out to be a good building, sustainable in the sense of the energy efficiency. And it was like 13,000 square feet. So it was our biggest project. And to see it complete, it really makes your motivation coming to work to be there with you, to see those elements that now you have put your design and you have put your creativity in function. This one is still ongoing. It's an entertainment center where they have a skating and swimming pool and climbing walls. And we have been working on this for 8 years. And it's coming to life and it's being occupied. So it's going to be important for the whole city of Richmond because kids will go there. Right now they have a soccer facility and the swimming that are already functioning. So a lot of kids go there, a lot of families get to see my building, get to see my creation, get to see something that I participated and I'm still participating on. This is 18 units. It was built already in North Vancouver. And some of the prices of real estate are, well, most of the time climbing. And this one especially because they had view of the water. So each one of the townhouses sold for over $1 million and they have views of the water. So being there to see the construction is always powerful. It gives you the feeling of achievement and completion of something that you drafted and now becomes a reality. We are still working on this. There are so many different typology of buildings. These are called cluster buildings. They want to sell units that are small units, but they don't want multiple little buildings. So they are calling it cluster, and each one of the buildings has 3 or 4 units. So now 3 or 4 families will live in this building. So when you look at the site, it doesn't look like economy type of housing. It's a much better quality. And they are grouped together so they are more efficient. We also have this on the Vancouver new bylaw that allows the stacked townhouses as long as they have access from the street. A lot of this type of projects, 6 townhouse, 10 townhouse, or row housing, we are working on. And sometimes I'm surprised of how the clients come to me because they saw a sign, our sign on the site, or this contractor works with another contractor and that contractor got my name. And some of the projects were done by other architects who retire and nobody to take over, so they come to me. So it's a variety of paths to get to hear where these projects come from. And one thing is, most projects take a very long time, especially with the municipalities. They are currently, even more now with the issue of COVID, taking about 3 years from a start of a project to when you can start completion. 3 years, 1 year goes for the rezoning. So changing the use of single house to multiple house. Then development is a long process back and forth with the city until they are happy with your design, going through public hearings and to get council to approve it and paperwork to be written. And then finally you can apply for a building permit. Building permit are more technical drawings, but once you are through the development, the shape of the building is already approved. But whenever we get this type of jobs, we have to assume that we are going to be involved in the project for at least 2-3 years. And this is, I would say, a good project because you don't have to be looking for another client for next month and next month and next month. You started this project, so you have work for the next 3 years. So this type of projects, starting from scratch, are good jobs. But again, in the meantime, let's say the city took 3-4 months to get back to you. What are you gonna do? That's when we go for all the tenant improvement, because tenant improvements are turnkey very fast. 1 month, 6 weeks. So while you're waiting for city on the 3-year jobs, then you can do tenant improvement jobs. We have other townhouse, some in Vancouver, some in Delta. This was interesting. We did some renovations for a church on Great Northern Way. And they had to bring the workers from China to assemble the materials because it was all material coming from China. So it was quite a typology of building to start, plus dealing with people that will come specifically to install these roofing materials that were not common in Vancouver. There is a lot of density happening in most municipalities because they don't want to build so many so many roads. So duplex and fourplex and row townhouse is very common in all municipalities. This project, at petition of the client, was to follow the design of European type of building. And they were to have 150 residential units, but the city really loved the project, but all these neighbors with the small house were against the project. So the project went as far as almost getting approval from city for development, but the public hearing and all the complaints from neighbors stopped the project. So this is not going to be built. But again, it was over a year of work and it was a good experience, but knowing that it's not for certain that it will get through with the city or with the neighbors. This is a very visible project, one in New West and one in Richmond. We have had a lot of inquiries for people that want to live there already, or they want to buy the commercial units, but it's still, like I said, 2-3 years on the works. But people see that this building is coming and they want to be in downtown Richmond or downtown New West, and they want to get ahead on buying or putting deposits for the units. But a developer cannot put the units for sale until the city has approved development permit. That's when you can do your strata plans and start selling by the square footage. Prior to that, when the approvals have not been given, the developer cannot even pre-sell the units. And this one is perhaps the largest project we have done to date. These are 40 units, 5 of them commercial and 35 residential, and it's under construction. They are coming out of the ground in Burnaby, Hastings, near Holdon. And again, so many people have collaboration. So consultants, city, employees, this has been on the works with our firm for about 5 years because the project changed ownership 3 times. And every time they change, the paperwork changed. But now it's coming to life. Now it's coming to, and again, I am only one person of 200 that have collaborated to get here, but it still is my building, my design, my collaboration, and all kinds of mistakes happen on the drawings, on the construction. But again, it makes me feel proud to see it coming to life. Yeah, I'm there by the sign of that same building. Having the signage of the company helped others to understand the type of projects your company is doing. But as I said originally, don't be afraid to go to site. You learn all the time. When you go to site, it's good to ask, what is this material called? What is this hardware called? What is this used for? Is this a local material? How is it put together? So being on site is always a learning experience. So don't be afraid to go every opportunity you have. When you are doing your internship, you need experience in all areas of architecture. Being on site is very a very good contribution to your knowledge, but at the same time, you can apply that knowledge into your designs or into your drafting. And then in every place we work, we make friends, and we create relationships that last for a long time. I still talk to many of the people that from school, from jobs I have been, and they become your friend, and again, they become your network, because maybe they are working for a firm, they are too busy, and they said, oh, Vivid Green can do it. And so keeping a good relationship and talking to the people that you work with is always a positive to find another job or to get projects for your own firm. And always when an architect goes for the oral review, I remember the people at the AIBC looking for keywords that the architect has to answer in order to pass the oral review. One of the keywords is, what is the primary role of the AIBC? What is the primary role of those regulations? And we always have to mention that we are to protect the public. The buildings that we build have to create safety and welfare of the public. So this was very important on the oral review. So at the end, it's all about working with people, collaborating with people, creating relationships with people, and putting your stamp in the designs, in the work, in the ethics you have for each one of the projects.
Thank you so much, Rosa. This is great. So this was a great presentation. I know each part of it could be beneficial for someone in this group, and it was great. We will record it and send it and post it on YouTube for other people to watch it. So now, if anyone has any question, you guys can unmute yourself and ask, or you can either type in the chat box and I'll ask Rosa. So we still have another 30 minutes to chat here. Any questions?
Can I ask one?
Yeah, sure, maybe. Go ahead.
I'd like to know your idea also about the interview session actually, and what kind of preparation actually we need to go through before getting into interview.
Mm-hmm. When you go for an interview, the first thing an employer is looking for is the likability of the person. So I have had, of course, we want the knowledge, we want the skills and all of this, but if you're not a good fit on the personality, that's the thing that will get you out of it first. So when we are going for an interview, and I have had people come on that matter, thinking that they are the best and they know the best, and therefore I should pay them a lot, and therefore I should hire them, and they are gonna do me a favor. So that's not the attitude you want to see on a person. So when you are going to an interview, you have to deep breathe, relax, and be your best self, trying to connect with that person. Then when we get to knowledge, even people that just arrive or people that just don't have experience in Canada yet, I recommend prepare yourself with building code and Revit. Revit is on the rise on most companies, and Revit is a comprehensive software that helps you view the project in 3D, and many companies are going to switch to that. So prepare yourself. If you don't have a job and you're looking for one, if you can take the course at BCIT or online for building code and for Revit, you will have a much better chance when you go for an interview. Now, for the experience, you have to do what they call like transfer skills. You don't have experience in Canada, so what are the things that will help you to get a job in Canada? For example, I will really consider somebody that tells me, when I was working, I was the one calling the consultants. I was coordinating. I was making sure the drawings were coordinated. It doesn't matter, it's not in Canada, but if you have the initiative to do that and you are not shy to talk to people, then it's gonna give you a good foot in the door.
That's great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think that was a really good advice. So any other questions from anyone?
Can I ask another?
Yeah, sure. You like questions.
I actually worked on my Revit since 2018, and I mostly saw your presentations, works about the rendering. I wanted to know which softwares do you usually for rendering that I need to like focus on to improve myself.
Yeah, I have 2 people doing Lumion, and I have also used in the past just Photoshop too. So we do the Revit model and put the materials right on Revit, and just with Photoshop put trees and site. But the one thing that I get a lot of resumes with people that know all this software for rendering, but that doesn't, I mean, it is a good thing to have, but it's only in a 3-year project, maybe 2 weeks of that 3 years, right? So you are not doing the rendering all the time. What you are doing for a very long period of time is the design, the technical work, the coordination, the site. So do not put a lot of emphasis on rendering only, because rendering is not as common. Yes, we have a lot of rendering for presentation to the city, but it's just in some stage. It's a very limited portion. So I do, for the past 2 years, I had one person and she was doing the rendering. And sometimes I don't know what to put her to do because she did all the renderings already. The rest of them, they are not doing renderings. They are working on the project. They are doing package for building permit. One thing that is very important, and perhaps more once you are in a job, is to review the requirements from city. Every municipality has different requirements for a building permit application or for a development permit application, and a lot of the things have to be done in advance of you submitting. For example, you are ready to submit and you are missing an arborist report, or you are ready to submit and you are missing the civil drawings. Well, you cannot submit. Even though you finish your job, you are not going to be able to submit if you didn't think in advance that at the same time I'm working on this, I should hire a civil, or at the same time I'm going to start downloading the forms, or at the same time I'm working, I'm going to call the city and say how many copies of drawings they need. I get ticked off when my staff come and ask me, how many drawings should I print? I don't know. Call the city. Why you ask me? Why you ask me? Every municipality is different. Some of them need 2 copies, some of them need 5 copies. You want to know? Look on the website or call the city. Each municipality and each project is different. For residential, they ask for less copies. For commercial, they may ask for more copies. Or maybe it's the opposite. City of Surrey is now scanning. They only want 1 copy. But maybe for other type of projects, they need 3 copies. So all of these things are simple and you can find out with the phone call. So don't be afraid to use the phone. Don't be afraid to search on the internet.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think I wanted to just add one thing. Same that Rosa said, like we have a lot of people that come with a very, with good skills on softwares. And for myself, for my first job, I realized that there are a lot of new things, especially in Vancouver, that we have to get familiar with, for example, the city bylaws or building code. And Rosa was really helpful because I was working with Rosa, one of the, my second job. And Rosa was really good in helping us to how to find things. So, and you know, pushing us to call the city or search or opening the bylaw and read it, find it yourself. So I think if you are good with the software is the first thing, and there are a lot of other things that can help you find a good job. So there are a lot of good courses for that also at BCIT. So the one that teaches you about the city bylaws is Planning 2 at BCIT, and also the Building Code Part 9 and 3 is also very good for knowledge of building code. Thank you, everyone. So any other questions, or should we call the night? So I think that's it. So thank you, Rosa, for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure to have you here, and we will continue this lecture series to find people, find their jobs, and settle in Canada. So yeah, it was great to have you here tonight.
I'm going to put my email. If anybody wants to email me with questions, I'm
that would be great.
available.
Thank you so much.
So I'll get to it. I may not respond immediately, but I will get to it. So if you have any questions, you can email me.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, she's a very good mentor.
Thank you all. Good.
Thank you so
Good to
much.
see you.
Good to see you. So before I close the chat, you can copy Rosa's email here. So have a good night, everyone. Hope to see you next time. Bye.